Hi guys, it's John from Custom Type 1. Today I want to talk to you about some travel tips. I see almost every day people posting questions on Facebook, all the different Facebook groups asking how to pack, what to do with security lines, all of those types of things. So I just want to tell you guys what we do. Everybody sort of has their own set of things that they follow, but this is what we do. We've never had an issue with TSA, even international security checkpoints. But to start, a few extra tips. First is I highly recommend using pens instead of vials. You can fill, even if you're on Omnipod or Tandem, you can fill pods directly from the pen. So we use the green 4mm pen needles. You just insert it just like you would the syringe, dial it up and press. And then obviously this only goes to 60, so dial it up again without removing it, press it again, however many you need. The benefits are you can get a much more exact amount going into your pod, so you're not wasting any insulin. But then also the pen that's in use, maybe half empty, can still be used as a pen. So throw this in your supply bag with a pen needle, and then that's your backup if you ever have a pod failure when you're out and about. Now, with traveling specifically, the first thing is Omnipod says there's no problems with millimeter wave scanners. Those are the ones where you got to go like this, the full body scanners. Dexcom doesn't say there's a problem with them, but they say they haven't been tested. We personally will go through whatever security makes us go through. Once before we were doing that, we got pulled aside because the Dexcom box of sensors set off the bomb detector 3 times. Homeland Security showed up. I mean, it was a big fiasco. They emptied all of our bags, everything, and it was about 45 minutes. Since then, we just take the easy approach. It's not worth it to waste half our day dealing with TSA. And if you look at the Facebook groups and search for people that say, hey, I go through 5 times a week on flights, there's very, very few people, if any, that I've ever seen that have said they've had a pod failure or a Dexcom failure after going through millimeter wave, also called an AIT, full body scanner, or sending their supplies through the X-ray machine. So do what you are comfortable with, but that's just what we do. Now I want to show you how we pack. This is the bag that I took for 2 weeks in Europe with all supplies in this one bag. You can see it's maybe like about 1 foot tall by 8 wide by about 8 deep. And I'm gonna unpack this, but a few things on the outside first. I picked this up just on Amazon. The back has our name, address, and phone number. Just pretty handy if you misplace it anywhere. The second thing is we picked up a bunch of carabiners. So I think I have like 5 or 6 of these clipped to my main bag. And then that lets you, as you're walking through the airports and to your Airbnb or to your hotel, to clip your medical bag right onto your other bag. I just clip them all the way around. Now I'm gonna start unpacking this to show you what we pack. I'm gonna start with the inside. 3 Frio packs. So for insulin, we take double what we need. I look at when the pod change is gonna happen and how much we know she uses per pod. She fills it up to 200 and has to change that about 2.5 days. And then we double that. For 2 weeks, it was actually 10 pens. And then I also took backup Lantus. So make sure you have backup of a slow acting also, just in case you have complete failure of your pump system, that you can use your slow acting. So I think in our case, I calculated how much your basal would be for Lantus and took twice as much as I'd need of that as well. One thing about Frio packs is they cannot be put in the fridge. So if you pull this out, if you put it in the fridge, it will freeze inside there at fridge temperatures. So always make sure you never pull these out and put in the fridge. I know a lot of people are concerned that, hey, I pulled this out, I'm going on a vacation for 2 weeks, and I'm taking all this extra insulin, I have to keep it fridge temperature so that it doesn't expire too soon. Well, unless you're going for longer than 2 weeks, everything you've pulled out of the fridge is going to be used within that month if you're taking double what you need. So we were gone for 14 days. I took 28 days worth. Everything that had been pulled out of the fridge was still used within that 28 days. All right, the next thing in the pack, meter. And this is actually our backup meter. The main meter, along with a set of tabs, the Omnipod controller, her phone for the Dexcom app, and one Baqsimi go in my daughter's little bag that she has with her. So that's the stuff that she always has to have with her. Next thing, glucose tabs. We originally took juice, like most people, and had to hassle with TSA every single time. Even when we used TSA Cares, I think there was only one time we didn't have to hassle. Now, it's not worth it, in my opinion. Grab a thing of tabs, and this is huge. This has 50 tabs in one of these bottles, so you can throw as many of these as you want in there. You can also just buy Coke or Sprite or even juice as soon as you walk through security, just in the airport store. So I'd recommend not hassling with juice. And if you're gonna need some for when you arrive, we just stop at a grocery store, wherever we're going, and we can grab juice there or Coke or whatever at the local grocery store. Now, the next thing, and this is actually in the front, it goes along with tabs. I highly recommend these. So it's a little 10-pack of glucose tabs. They're usually sitting right next to these big bottles in Walgreens, CVS, wherever your local store is. But the nice thing with these is we refill these when they're out. So every day when we're going out and about, when we're traveling, we'll just make sure we have 10 of these, and this can be thrown in a pocket, a purse pretty easily when you're out and about. All right, next thing inside, moving on. For 2 weeks, we've got one box of pods, and there's a second box of pods down in there. So that's 10 pods we were taking for 2 weeks. She changes usually about every 2.5 days, and it kind of depended on when her starting pod was and when her ending pod was, that I figured we needed 8 or 7, I believe, and I just thought it was easier to grab 2 boxes. I started never unpacking these, so it's much easier to just leave it fully packed. It takes up a little extra space, but you can see how little my bag is, that it's actually more convenient to keep them all packed together. Alcohol wipes. So these are just little boxes. These actually come from our insurance. They ship with something, but you can find these little boxes anywhere. If you don't have them in a box, I've also just grabbed a whole stack of these and put them into a little Ziploc bag. Okay, not 1, but 2 Dexcom transmitters. Even if we don't have a transmitter change when we're traveling, I take extra transmitters. Now, we got a prescription sent to Costco once so that we could pay cash for an extra transmitter to not have to be reliant on just barely getting the next one in time. So we always have that extra backup. You can look on Amazon Pharmacy, usually has them really cheaply now as some of the best prices if you pay cash. So even if I don't have a transmitter, I actually take 2, a transmitter change, sorry. And the reason being is I never want to have just one backup of anything that would majorly mess up an entire vacation. So if the transmitter failed and our backup didn't work, we're done. And so that's why I have the 2 backups there. All right, digging down through ketone strips. We have a blood ketone meter, but I don't take it when traveling because this is just way easier and way lighter. The odds of needing it are so slim when you're, on any given day anyways, that I just would rather have something simple, lightweight, and easy to travel with. Okay, next in the box is our pen needles. You can see this is an off-brand. I actually got these from Amazon. The brand is called Simply. And these are 4 millimeters by 32 gauge. These can be used to directly fill the Omnipod. That's what we use rather than using the syringe in the Omnipod. And that lets you still use your pen as a pen and stuff like that, like I said earlier. These are also drastically cheaper for us, depending on your insurance. I think these were $12 or $15 for a box of 90. That ended up being cheaper for us than our copay to get the BD brand from the pharmacy. All right, next up in the box is my second box of Omnipods. So that's just our second box there. Next up, Dexcom sensors. So depending on how long you're gone, you may only need to take one or whatever. We were gone for 14 days this time. So, and we had one transmitter change in the middle. So we needed, actually, I think we had one like a day or two after we got there. So we needed one near the beginning and near the end of the trip. And then the third was for my backup in case we had a sensor failure. But again, I would always make sure I had at least two, even if I only have one sensor change. All right, next up, Samsung Galaxy S20 or S21, I don't know. It's a compatible one. So it's compatible with both Dexcom and with Omnipod. I have Omnipod 5, I should say. I have the Dexcom app and the Omnipod 5 app already installed. And the reason I do this is because I would much rather have a backup phone to be able to still use the Omnipod 5 than to switch to shots if we're traveling and the controller dies. The other thing that I read actually while we were gone was that if you have a backup controller, I had read that there was someone who had a problem. They were actually out of the country that they lived in, and the country they were visiting did not have Omnipod 5 released for it yet, and they were not able to set up the PDM, the controller, in this other country, and it must have had something to do with the geolocation of it. So with the phone, you may have that same problem with the app. I don't know, but at least I know that I could try setting up a VPN on the phone to make it seem like it's in the US to reset it up. My suggestion, look for older phones that are still compatible, that, you know, not the oldest phone that might drop off, but, you know, a year or two in, and just look for a used phone. That's what this is. It's just a used phone that's like, you can get them for $150 or something like that now. Basically the same price as just buying a backup controller. Next are backup wall plug and a backup charge cable. Now, the nice thing, this phone is USB-C, so the phone is the same charger as the Omnipod 5 controller. So this will work with the Omnipod 5 controller or with the phone regardless, and my daughter has the main charger that she's gonna use. Now, if you're traveling internationally, I suggest they make wall chargers that have swappable ends, so you can have US, EU, UK, whatever end you need where you're traveling. So if you travel internationally, grab one of those, then you just have one device that you have to take. And then for the cable, so many people ask this question, what cables work with the Omnipod 5 controller? Any cable that's USB-A to USB-C. So don't worry about what the cable's called, what it is, just look at the ends. It needs to have USB-A on one end and USB-C on the other end. USB-C to C cable won't work unless you put adapters on the end, and other types of cables won't work with that. Now, still going, almost done here. Also in the front, cake gel. So this is just writing gel that I bought at our local grocery store. And the benefit to this, I forget how many carbs this is, it's like 10 or 20 carbs for the whole thing, is this just goes right in. Nobody's ever questioned this. It's, you know, no different than having a little tube of, a little thing of deodorant or something that's like a gel form in with your liquids bag. In this case, I just leave it in this bag. I've never even taken it out. Nobody's ever questioned it. And then Baqsimi. And again, we have We keep one Baqsimi that's in my daughter's bag when we're traveling, and one goes in the main medical bag when we're traveling. Now, for liquids, we also never pull anything out of this bag other than one case. And that case is if the airport requires liquids to go out. Now in the US, I highly recommend pre-check. If you're regularly travel internationally, it's not that much more to get global entry, but it does save like 30 minutes to an hour on return flights when you're coming back into the country to go through customs and immigration. It's just drastically easier. So you don't have to worry about, oh, what if I have a low while I'm waiting in line for customs, things like that. You just breeze right through customs. So if you have global entry or pre-check, you can go through most airports in the US have pre-check lines where you don't have to pull liquids out, you don't have to take your shoes off, and it's a metal detector. My daughter wears Omnipod on one side, Dexcom on the other arm, and she just walks through the metal detector, no questions asked. We don't even tell them anything. We just set the bag and go through the x-ray. I don't take the Frio packs out, which are gel bubbles with, liquid inside the pens. I don't take anything out. I run it through the x-ray. My daughter walks right through, and we are always through security in about 30 seconds. For places that don't have pre-check or when we've been international, we just go with the flow of whatever they require. We flew through an international airport that said liquids come out. I just pulled my 3 Frio packs out and set them in a separate bin. I ran everything else through it in the backpack, and then these in the separate bin, and that's it. The only things we do different is if it's a full body scanner, one of these, is I'll have my daughter point out that she has on an insulin pump and a continuous glucose monitor before she goes in, because that way they know it's coming, because those will show up on the scans. But typically all they do when she does go through like that is they just look at it afterwards. And at most they'll do a swab of that. But it's much simpler than doing the full hand inspection, pat downs, and all of those types of things. But again, some people aren't comfortable with that. If you're not, continue to pull out what you want to pull out and have hand inspected. But I mainly also wanted to show you how much you can fit in a tiny little backpack like this and the supplies that we tend to take when we travel. So feel free to ask any questions down in the comments, and I'll try to help you out if you have any more questions about that. Thanks, guys. Bye.